software private equity went from a niche within a niche to very crowded in the last 10 years.
Yes.
And the late cycle tourists are making us all look bad.
Now the private equity fundcast is about to begin. So give it up for your hosts, Devin and Jim.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Funcast. We're going to talk about 10 things we've learned, given that it's the 10th year of the final close of the first ParkerGale fund. Though Jim and I have been together mostly since 1998, and the podcast, the Funcast, has been on the air for 12 years. The official date of ParkerGale is either 10 or 11 years ago. But for symmetry's sake, we're going to go with 10 since we had our final close of our first fund in September of 2016. So Jim and I like to reflect. We like to go back in time and see how we did. And today we're going to talk about 10 things we learned over the last 10 years. And because I won the coin toss, Jim, you get to go first.
Yeah, well, so two things. First of all, you told me the timing was because we didn't really learn anything for 2 of the 12 years. So that's what we're doing. And second, I really feel like you kicked my family doesn't know how to load the dishwasher. I mean, I feel like it was a big lesson for us in the last 10 years, but fine. Let's make it 11.
Well, based on your PowerPoint you put together and presented them every night during COVID until you were kicked out of the house and had to move in with me.
Yes, I found their reaction was, let's say, a bit of an overreaction, as they say.
My issue is, since I'm such a middle child, I need to know that when I load the dishwasher right one time, that Gina goes out and buys me a cake and throws me a party for it.
And it's never happened. That's the funny part, right?
I'm still waiting for my cake.
She gives you the sad nod.
Yeah, because I've never loaded the dishwasher the right way. It's called, learned obsolescence, or like,
yes.
If I load it right, she'll know I know how to load it right.
Yes. Well, here's what I'll say in response to that, and at the beginning of this, that I did it like a true operating partner. I maximized loading that machine, and then it was pointed out to me that none of the dishes came out clean because I had packed it so good. So there you go, operating partner 101.
I'll tell you, that's value add, Jim.
That's super value.
True value creation.
Just step right out of the way.
You haven't seen value. You haven't been able to create in all the time I've known you.
That's true, actually.
All right.
So
now that
one.
we're through the banter, let's start with.
Yeah. So number one,
could we be serious for a
moment?
Yeah,
we can be
Jim?
serious for a second. Yeah.
Let's do your first one. What did you learn in the last 10 years?
So, I mean, this is a lesson I think that if you're a technologist, you've always learned, right? There's a new tech revolution coming. You don't know what it is, but it's going to change, right? The people who are sitting on mainframes got surprised by mini computers. They got surprised by PC desktops. They got surprised by client server applications, the browser. As you see me nod my head here back and forth, There's a million revolutions. What people tend to forget, there's dozens of them in between that. Blockchain, cryptocurrency,
Web 2.0,
Silverlight, Web 3.0 for that matter. Although that actually wasn't anything other than what Mark Andreessen said it was, but it wasn't really nothing. This is something. This is nothing. Let's see, all of those technologies that didn't make it along the way, and that's true for a lot of businesses, but it's really true in technology. And whether you're buying technology companies or not, it does affect you, because the same manufacturing companies that were using client server-based ERP systems suddenly got surprised by browser-based systems, right? So technology is constantly changing, right? So our job is partly to figure out what things to chase and what things not to chase, because it's, you can get yourself down a bad path if you chase the wrong thing. We could have said, hey, blockchain's a great storage mechanism for everything, and where would we'd be now? We'd be a mess, right? So this makes it very difficult as an operating partner focused on technology, because you're going to have portfolio companies that get enamored with something because it's interesting or cool that may not be down Main Street. That we may be left down a path that we don't be left down a dead end road somewhere. It's technology that goes, or it becomes too expensive. So part of it is, do we need to chase something? How hard do we need to chase it? And is this a trend that's going to actually matter?
And is it because where we live in the software world, where we live in the kind of company maturity world, we don't have to chase bleeding edge because we're not going to be bought for our stack? So you're able to sit back and see how it develops before we go all in on something?
Well,
Like,
that's
how do you choose?
Yeah, well, that's true for stuff that would face customers. But for example, take something that a developer might want to use, like a new programming language. Golang got popular for a while, right? So a lot of your newer developers, they want to use something new and cool, right? Our problem is Golang doesn't make it. Then when we go to get bought, we got a problem. We got some tech debt that seems like, nobody's using this language. Now it's easy when it's old stuff, right? But somebody says, oh, hey, we shouldn't write this in COBOL, or this thing's written in Visual Basic. Sure, but the new stuff will bite you will bite you just as hard, partly because not many people know the new technology, right? So who do you go to for help? You're going to pay people that learned it a day before you did. So that's not great for our size companies that can't afford to make a mistake. And that's one of the challenges. You're a big corporation. If you waste a couple $1 million on some side project technology, do you think Oracle cares about that stuff? They can waste millions of dollars on it, but we can't afford that. Like $1 million of engineering into a technology or approach that isn't going to work, that's a huge hit to us. So,
am I reading between the lines a little on your stance on AI and kind of, the cautiousness? I mean, I think the first episode we did on OpenAI was 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
Around this time. So like we've been tracking it, but we haven't been like all in on it. So maybe last year we were experimenting. Yeah. And now this year, all in.
This year we're all in. Yeah. I mean, it's you'll see it on the sales and marketing side. You see it in product management. You see it in our products themselves. Now there's a lot of cautions, but it's not going anywhere. And this is a technology we're going to have to adapt to. Just like the client server guys got surprised by the browser, how quickly it took over as sort of the main delivery for applications. And those same guys got surprised by mobile, how quickly, it became mobile first as the way to do things. So, part of our job as technologists, right, is the waves keep coming. We just have to work on our nose to figure out which ones we should chase and which ones we shouldn't chase. And it's not just because the technology is good or bad. It's our size companies can only absorb certain things. Like we can't take some risks that some
and if we had been all in on AI too soon, a lot of things we would have built would have been built into the LLMs or built into some of these new applications that are coming out.
100%.
From Claude and OpenAI and other players. We would have built a lot of stuff that became obsolete very quickly instead of waiting for it to develop a little bit further.
Well, you always say, being too early is the same as being wrong. And that's absolutely true. Being too early. Hey, great. We would have got a lot of pundits. We probably would have got invited to a lot of shows and we would have lost a lot of money in the process, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, here's my first one. And don't take this personally, Jim. There is absolutely such a thing as too many operating partners.
Wow. Is my nose bleeding? My nose bleeding? Yeah.
Well, according to Heidrick and Struggles.
I mean, you mean somebody specific? I mean, is this,
There's absolutely such a thing as too much Jim Milbury, too. But
100%.
I knew that 30 years ago. I didn't need to wait for the last 10 years. But no, in 2002, Heidrick and Struggles did a study. It said in 2022, 7% of PE professionals identified as operating partners, and now 21% do. So it's tripled in 2 years. My guess is, maybe people weren't calling themselves operating partners back then. It was something else.
Yeah.
And today it's just cool to be an operating guy at a private equity fund. Everybody wants to do
it.
Oh,
what do I do? I'm an operating partner. What do you do? Yeah.
So I think we had this learning over the last 10 years.
We did.
In our prior firm, there was one operating person. It was you. What did I want? What did I want more than anything else when we started our own firm? I was like, I need a Jim in every pot. So every function, I need a Jim. And we went and pieced that together.
We did, yeah.
And what I learned over COVID mostly, because we were all remote and things kind of settled down. It was crazy, but they kind of settled down and like the world got a little clearer for me, was I was getting calls from CEOs saying, hey, I was just asked to do this, or I have told we do this now, or we do it this way or that way. And it hadn't been bubbled up through in the correct channels. Everybody left to their own devices.
Heart was in the right place. Yeah.
Want to do everything the right way, want to build their career, want to build out really cool tools and techniques. We were over operating the portfolio. And we made the hard decision to pare that back and have gotten a lot of questions from existing investors and potentially new investors are like, hey, what happened?
Yeah.
And like the answer is we were doing too much. It wasn't coordinated enough. We were confusing our management teams. And if our job is to hire great management teams, then we need to be there at the right place at the right time with the right tool. And sometimes the best thing to do is nothing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
We're going to do a podcast about this if we already haven't by the time this comes out. Basically talking about the different generations of operating talent inside of funds. From none, when you and I started, just a bunch of deal people, right? And you
unless you had like a CEO in residence who was kind of came out of a successful portfolio company, was kind of sitting around the table in the deal meetings.
But I would call that the second generation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The first generation was just deal guys.
Yeah.
Second generation was like, that CEO was really good. Maybe he could hang around the hoop here and help out and sit on some boards. Next generation was, hey, maybe we should have people on the team. And generation of that, hey, maybe we should set up a completely separate consulting business with just operators who basically just work for our portfolio. I think that this generation we're headed into just at a time when most of the firm is backing up the truck on operating people is, and I think we were ahead of the curve, is paring it back to the essentials.
Yes.
And having a higher bar for your management team. And I think that's a good balance of the old way of doing things. It was all in the management team. The new way of doing things is like, and we can help. And AI is making it easier and faster and better for the management teams and the operating people. But I do think there are going to be a lot of funds in the next cycle who pare down the operating side of the house pretty aggressively.
Yeah, because I do think a lot of them, by the way, cutting me down to part-time, I mean, I didn't see that coming. I think a lot of them are finding, it's make work. Let's show that the operation was successful, that we were adding value. And again, you're just heaping things in a management team that don't really add any value. And that's part of the problem, which comes to my number two.
Well, let me, before we get to your number two,
Yeah.
which is, something I'm very interested in.
You've always been interested in.
Is this is no knock on operating people.
It isn't, yeah.
We're the poster child for operating.
100%.
For operating people. Like you and I are equal partners. We own the same amount of the firm.
We do.
We have the same carry. We have operators on our payroll. We don't charge the portfolio for them. Like you make money by having a good result from an investment we make. Like we were on that 12 years ago. So this is no knock on the operating people, a lot of whom listen to this podcast. We also hear a lot from a lot of them who feel like they're second-class citizens because of this dynamic.
Yep.
And I think private equity over-rotated, and it's going to rotate back a little bit. And I think, and I think it's going to be generally good for the industry, generally good for the portfolio companies. It's going to be hard and messy, but I think that's where we're headed.
I think you have to, which brings me to what was my number three, but popped up the stack to my number two.
Let's do it.
Little's Law, right? So this guy was MIT. John Little was an MIT professor, Sloan, and he basically did a bunch of research to prove that he did it for manufacturing companies, that companies that have too many things in process get less product out the other end. So it's funny that the guy's name is actually Little because it's do less to accomplish more. And I think that's completely related to this, too many operating partners, because if you look at, we got a talent guy, we got a tech guy, we got a salesperson, we got a back office. If they're all charging into a small company, like let's get our thing done, it's just doing too many things. And at the end of the day, those aren't separate departments. Everything kind of crosses over at these smaller companies. Now, maybe it's some giant organization, a back office project wouldn't interfere with product development or something else. But at our size companies, that poor CEO, CFO is kind of bouncing between a bunch of projects with a relatively new team. They're not getting anything done. And so part of what we have to do is figure out, okay, what is important with the management team? What happened during diligence? Will we write about all of that stuff? And, diligence is you get a certain level of information, then you own the company and you find out a few more things.
You find out it was actually,
look at that hidden closet. That's interesting. So we find that. So part of it is they all look like interesting projects, and a lot of operating partners super excited to try, let's fix this, A, B, and C, when in reality, the team simply can't handle that. So this idea of do less to get actually more done is really important. We see it a lot in the kinds of companies we see because the founders, what's made them good is they tend to be idea people. They come back from a meeting and they're so excited about something and let's start a project. We're going to move the product in this direction. We're going to add this thing to how we sell. And they lose interest in it like the new toy. But now we've got this half-baked project out there that some schlub is kind of working on and wasting resources on. And we have the funny portfolio one where the customer, you remember at BizCon, was waiting for the feature, and the guy worked on it for a year, and the customer said, I don't know what you're talking about. We never asked for that feature in our lives. I mean, that stuff happens a year. Like literally, a developer spent a year on something without talking to the customer. That was probably something that shouldn't have gotten greenlit, right?
And I would say in the lower middle market, the companies we're stepping into, 10 to 30 million-ish of revenue, are often, as Rick Noble, one of our great CEOs and good friends, and now very successful author.
Yes, absolutely.
In his retirement, would say, one of the things that's wrong with every lower middle market company that we step into and that he would step into as CEO is there's either no plan or too many plans, neither of which is good.
Yeah.
We often find it's more of there's too many plans. They're doing too many things and we need to pare it back. And that's really hard for the person who's working on that project.
Yes.
For us to come in and say, like, we're not going to do that project anymore. Why not? Because nobody wants it. And everybody in the company thought that project was important, so it was slowing other things down and getting in the way of things. So we're often coming in as like, shrink your TAM, do less. And then here we come with all these operating people that say like, okay, do this and do this and do this and do this. And everybody gets really confused really fast. So we need to get to clarity, alignment, and we can deliver a lot more by doing a lot less.
Which is why fewer operating partners, so they're in the whole process of diligence and everything else. So you all come out of this thing when you've closed the company, you bought it, you know what you're going to do and you know what you're not going to do. You know, the funny part for us is oftentimes we kill these projects. Somebody at the company's like, thank God. Like they've been working on something for the founder for years that's going nowhere.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And you're the last to know.
Last to know.
Right. Well, if anybody's still doing the throw the deal over to the operating people after they close it thing, I hope the industry still isn't doing that.
You mean the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook?
It's like, hey, we closed this.
This fell in our lap.
Here's a ticket to Valdosta, Georgia. See you in 100 days.
Valdosta, Georgia has like the world's biggest onion. I mean, that's actually exciting. You know, versus Enid, Oklahoma on a Friday night.
Compared to most places we
go. All right. So I would finish that with, do less, do it better, finish things. And we find that works every single time. So.
And this whole, we've used the table group and other Wind and Sail, the table group and others to help management get aligned on, here's the one thing we're going to do in the next 60 days.
Yep.
Okay. Here's the next thing we're going to do in the next 90 days. Right.
Yep.
So just constant 90-day plans where you're getting stuff done, finishing it, and moving on.
And constant from operating partners and associates is, I'm not asking you to do anything. When we get to an interesting idea, hey, put this in pin this, don't work on it.
Yeah.
You've got to have that mentality because to your point, a lot of times, the portfolio companies think any instruction or any request from anybody on the ParkerGale team means let's go run. We don't mean that. Right?
And they assume that I've been told about it.
Yes.
Like nobody told me. I didn't know that was going on. And not that.
Yeah, in a bad way.
There's only 12 of us here, right?
Right.
Like,
that's the funny part.
I know. But again, left to their own devices, people want to be helpful. And if you're not aligned and everybody's running a bunch of different places and you own one of the functions, you're going to operate the out of that function, whether it needs to be operated or not. It's just human nature. So
there's got to be some conjunction junction rhyme in there we can do, but I can't pull it out at the moment.
I know. That would be a good new piece of content. All right. So here's my next one. One thing I've learned in the last 10 years is that sourcing has become an arms race and the founder of the company is just inventory.
Oof.
There's the relationship of what's the most important thing a private equity fund does? It finds a company it really wants to buy. It develops a relationship with the owners of that business. So the owners of that business sell it to them at a very attractive price with no competition. That is the business.
That's the proprietary deal flow, my friend.
Then we throw it over the fence to the operating guys and say, hey, good luck. Here's a ticket to Valdosta, Georgia. But this arms race is out of control. And AI is only making it worse. So everybody has the same tech stack.
Yes.
They're all scraping the same websites. They're all using the same tools to do it. They're all sending the same cold emails. They don't even call people anymore.
No,
it's a cold call, at least you get hung up on.
Yeah.
A cold email, you just pretend you never sent
it. They never see it, right?
Yeah. And if you're my brother, you reply to all those cold emails with like totally a flame war. You start a flame war with the associate just to make yourself feel better for the day.
Which is fun.
I totally appreciate it. Totally appreciate it. The sourcing is become, on Monday, I need to show everybody how many deals I reached out to, how many founders I called, how many emails I sent. Yeah. Where is the human being in the sourcing side of it? Who's on the other side of this poor person who owns a very nice company that's on the Inc. 5000, God forbid.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just now the yellow pages for VPs, associates, and BD people across private equity. There is no problem with sourcing. I think we're the kings and queens of sourcing at ParkerGale. But you do it like this.
Yes.
Like you create content that people are interested in. You develop relationships with people who introduce you to people who say like, hey, if you want to have a call about selling your business way before everything, you should talk to Ryan. You should talk to Nori because they're going to have a really good conversation with you. They're not going to try and close you. They're not going to try and extract information from you. So this is a give business. You give first, you get second. And the sourcing side with the arms race that has been created and all the tools that are out there to go carpet bomb these poor founders with these emails and voicemails and whatever is coming their way. It's upside down. It's upside down. The human is the last piece of it. And I think the firms that figure that out, who can tell a really good story, who can create compelling content to passively get in these owners' ears and in their reading lists, and they're getting forwarded things from buddies of theirs who are like, hey, I heard you are thinking about maybe selling. Here's something good to read. Here's this thing I found interesting. Here's somebody who's going to really respect the relationship. Here's a founder of a private equity firm or a senior partner who really understands your industry and could be helpful. Nobody's going to trust it because you can't report against it.
Right.
You can't show the volume that your volume this week was higher than your volume last week. So nobody in our industry is now full of very bright type A people who love to measure things and are finance people who have never read a piece of of fiction in their lives, unfortunately. The only thing they have to do is report against
some of the deal books they've seen are largely fiction in our experience.
Oh my God, that is true. Maybe most of them.
Yes, maybe most of them. What's funny is we're getting the inbound of that now, right? Like I don't know how many you've gotten with these third-party guys using AI tools, with hey, Devin, have conversation with 5 founders a day. Is this something that interests you? And then 2 days later, you get the follow-on email that says, I guess growth isn't in your plan for ParkerGale this year. If you think we respond to any of those, like especially I'm at 617joe@gmail, we're responding to those things. It's ridiculous.
Or even like we're on the receiving end of these sourcing emails.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like, because we own a bunch of relatively small businesses in the private equity world that are often sold to other private equity firms. So people call me and source, like I'm the inventory. Nori and Ryan and poor KG and Caroline are the inventory for somebody else's sourcing machine. And we can tell who's good at it and who's bad at it, right? If you're just going to send me some generic email that you're from XYZ fund that has tens of billions of dollars under management and has a thesis in supply chain management, I'm not in a rush to get back to that email.
So you're saying if you get the Velvet Jones email, exactly. Would you like to sell your company passively? Yeah.
Velvet Jones. Great reference.
Yes. That was a deep pull. I think I hurt myself. I might have pulled a little something.
That was a good one. All right. So what's your next one?
So on the theme of bashing, operating partners, one of the things I've learned in this, which again, this is personal, an opinion piece, and I'd love to hear from other operating partners in other specialties. But for tech specialty, what I do, because we buy software companies, it's a different animal because it's changing. Like anytime some new trend comes along or some technique is approached or something gets hot in the marketplace, my playbooks, if we even have a real playbook as opposed to some ideas, 18 months, it's all changed. I mean, 2 years ago, AI wasn't on our radar screen, right? It was probably DevOps was the main thing we were kind of looking at from improving operations at our companies. AI come out of nowhere, right? So, if you're a supply chain specialist or, and you've had a good career in supply chain, you can keep current, but it's not going to be the pace that somebody like on the technology side is. The downside of that, of course, is the more time I have to spend staying current on stuff, the more I get drawn outside of the regular deal processes. I have to miss more, deal meetings because we've got stuff going on in the portfolio that, I've got to catch on some technology that we haven't used before. And in a lot of cases, I have to touch it myself. I can't just understand, I can't just read about it because we're trying to help our companies make decisions in a particular direction. So it's hard to continue to create that, sticking power with the core team. That's the easiest way an operating partner can get outside the flow of the deal team, outside the flow of the firm, particularly if you're on the technology side, right? I think it's a lot easier with these other disciplines just because the rate of change tends to be slower. Not impossible, but healthcare may be one that goes pretty fast or finance regulations, but I think the stream that you see as a tech partner is huge. You're drinking from a fire hose.
As my analogy is, when you buy a software business, in the 5 years you own it, you need to rebuild an entirely new factory.
Probably, yeah.
Right? Where if you bought a widget manufacturer, you might add an extra line or an extension to the factory.
Sure.
Put an addition on the factory. You don't have to rebuild the entire factory with all the machinery in that 5-year investment period.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Right. So whether we buy a business with a very modern stack or a less modern stack, that stack is going to change dramatically over our investment period. Where on the talent side, the sales and marketing side, the finance side, others, supply chain, maybe some others, things evolve. And technology and tools are allow you to do things better, faster, cheaper, differently, at greater scale. But you're not completely rebuilding the entire way to do things, right?
No.
I think just look at the last 12 months with Claude and the other tools, right? Building software is fundamentally different than it was 2 years ago.
Yep.
Like completely different, to the point where we've had side conversations, which we'll totally do a podcast about, is it's not become a technology problem anymore. I think you've had this revelation in the last 30 days. This is now a management issue.
Yes.
Which we'll do a whole podcast on. What does that mean? Like running the development team is completely different than it used to be, and the tools to do it are completely different. And that's hard, especially when people are buying you for the factory, the software there.
Right.
So a lot of companies that can't go to market this year, who would be ready to go to market this year, software companies, because their tech stack isn't going to make it through tech diligence.
Right.
It's not going to make it.
Well,
and not because it's bad.
Yeah.
Just because somebody's going to say, well, I'm going to have to rebuild this thing in the new way of doing it. And it's going to cost me $5 million. EBITDA is $25 million. So take $1 million off a year for 5 years, and it's a 15 times EBITDA multiple. I'm paying less money for this. And the seller may just say, I'm not going to take that price. So tech diligence is going to drive a lot of deals that don't get closed this year, in my opinion, because of this reason.
Well, in that particular case, they're going to try an add back, and then Nori's going to get to them, and that add back's going to be gone. But take a shot at it, folks.
Hey, I've never seen EBITDA I didn't want to adjust.
Yes, exactly.
I just want to adjust it all night long.
But it's also you can't do the job either. Like the point is, you got to be able to figure out the technologies without doing it on a day-to-day basis, right? Which is why we have to be super collaborative with our CTOs and product managers, because look, I'm not going to be as good at hands-on in their tech stack nor should I be. My job is to solve problems in those cases, but you got to be current. So when these guys are talking to you, you know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I didn't come on this podcast to pump your tires, but there aren't a lot of gyms in buyout funds.
No.
People that are as technical as you and have been in private equity for 25 years. So it's definitely a secret weapon of ours, because, again, in a traditional private equity model where you have maybe some technical people on the operating team, they don't have the juice that you have in terms of co-founder of the firm.
True. Yeah. What
you say carries certainly more weight than a junior person on the operating team getting billed out by the hour.
You don't know CTOs, do you?
No. I'm not saying they're going to do what you want to do, but you definitely have a bigger hammer than other people do, and you've got a way about you that is that people want you in the conversation. That's very hard to do, and you got it from just miles on the road.
Yeah, I started as a pre-sales engineer, so you're basically trying to translate things. You're trying to sell a product by translating technology problems to solutions, right? So that works. That
on everybody's way home tonight from work or wherever they are, stop at your local church, synagogue, mosque, light a candle for all the technology operating partners out there who are trying to explain there's a new way of doing things to the deal partner. It's going to cost $5 million of EBITDA the next 2 years to do it. And if we don't do it, it may be existential to the business.
And then
and the deal partner is just like,
and what's your name again?
Exactly. And you
Who do you work
are
for? Right.
exactly. And the reception in Palmetto Bluff isn't so good right now.
Yes, when
I can't hear you.
hit the security.
All right, I'll take the next one. So I think in the last 10 years, add-ons have gone from a strategy to a crutch. So,
Ouch.
ouch.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah.
Add-on acquisitions went from 59% of all PE deals in 2014, right? Tuck-in acquisitions. This is not just technology, this is across all, to 80% in 2022. That's according to PitchBook, our friends at PitchBook. And they've moderated to like 75%, but still 3/4 of all deals are add-ons. Now, if you're a dental,
that's a big number.
if you're a dental practice consolidation play, I get it. One dentist office, very similar to the next dentist office. And you're just stringing them together along a geography, right?
Except for the little shop of horrors. Yeah.
I want to be a
dentist. Yeah. Steve Martin is a dentist. Is nuts up.
Yeah. I'm not sure you may notice in diligence you want to buy it. You don't want to buy that guy. 100%. You're like, where's all the
It's
nitrous
the
going?
professionalism I appreciate. Yeah.
It's like, where's all the nitrous going? The nitrous bill is so high.
Exactly.
10 times higher. 10 times higher than the
Some
the
poor
comparable.
associate's going to have to roll in, like,
I found something in the invoices. But in software, now we've done 25 platforms together. I think we've done 50, 55, somewhere in that range, acquisitions.
yeah, but
So-
mostly features.
I know, but
Yeah.
like, that's not a lot. That's not a big ratio.
No. But features I would say is the easiest and most straightforward way to do
And
it.
in half of our companies, we haven't done an acquisition.
Yep.
Now, maybe that's dumb, but I think in software, the buy and build is very hard, nigh impossible, because you're buying companies on different stacks.
Yep.
You've got different methodologies of doing things. Our strategy is one of the acquisitions has to be the system of record that everything gets consolidated into.
Yeah.
You can't run separate stacks. You've given me religion on every business we have. Their strategy, the product strategy and the corporate strategy are one and the same.
Just because they're size companies.
Yeah. These are, again, $10 to $30 million businesses. The product strategy and the corporate strategy are one and the same. We've done nice little tuck-ins
Yep.
where we've bought companies with Chris Sullins back in the day, where he was like,
He was a feature buying machine.
there's
though.
no
Yeah.
revenue here, but I need this.
Yes.
And I actually don't want to buy a business with a lot of revenue because I don't want the customers in that end market.
Yep.
Right? We're having this conversation at a handful of companies right now is I need that feature, but if we buy a business that's got 5 million of revenue, half of it is in a vertical we're not in.
Exactly. I don't want to be.
And I don't want to pay for the 5
Right.
and only keep 2.5. And I'm going to lose half the 2.5 when I integrate it. So I think we're seeing this. There are a lot of software companies that went on an absolute tear, an M&A tear. They weren't consolidated. The joke is that consolidation is upside value creation for the next guy. The next guy.
But you know,
but
like
that's a timing
Constellation. But Constellation, that's the one model where they didn't integrate them, and they were just they literally buy and hold. But
Yeah.
thinking that you're going to buy these things and not integrate them, I think that's a disaster plan.
Yeah, I think you buy one big thing, you tuck in stuff underneath it. That basically you keep some of the team, and you take the code, you integrate it deep into the core of the product, and the business disappears. The name goes away, all that stuff. The buying 10, 12, 15 software companies in the insurance space, for example, I'm not thinking of one in particular, but like as an example of like a bunch of $20 to $30 million companies all together. It's really hard.
It's really hard because you're going to have a massive long tail. With software, you're going to have one or two key customers that you don't want to lose that are using some offshoot of the thing that you can't shut down. So what happens is you end up with, this huge mess of legacy customers that you can't really get them onto the single platform.
Yeah.
I mean, Infor, would they buy 30 ERP companies? And it took them a long time to consolidate down to, a finite stack. I mean, literally years to consolidate down.
So I'm not saying add-ons are a bad thing. I'm saying the buy and build we can grow this business and average down our multiple by buying lots of different things has become a bit of a crutch. shows really good growth and expansion, allows you to deploy more and more capital. But again, here comes tech diligence. How many different ERP systems are on? How many different payroll systems? How many different systems of record are built inside this? And how are you going to consolidate this? And AI is coming for each one of these. They might pick off a piece of the thing you bought and leave the other things. It's just going to be really hard to decipher it if it's not like fully integrated, operational, clean, easy org chart to understand business.
Well, and that's why I think you have to go into it, if you think you need to do that, with a overall plan. Like, this is what my product's going to look like at the end. I'm buying this and I need to buy these pieces. I saw a deal that looks interesting. It might fit with this portfolio company. That's the thing. It's like, ooh, it's got $5 million of revenue and $2 million of EBITDA. It's like,
I would promise you that most add-ons in the software world are driven by the fund, not the management.
Yes, totally.
How many of our CEOs are calling us and saying,
I want to do an add-on.
I've got another.
Except for Chris Sullivan.
I've got another add-on
Right.
for you, right? I've got another add-on for you. It's more like us saying, hey, what about this? What about this?
Yeah.
What about this? What about this? Our view is, what about this? Get the product team, get the engineering team, get the CEO on the phone with the banker, with the founder, whatever. And like, let's figure out,
quick.
could we integrate this thing? And I may say, me and the CEO may be like, oh my gosh, this is a great piece of revenue, some really great customers. And then you and Chris Beach tell us, we can't integrate this thing.
Right.
We have to rebuild this. We can buy the revenue, but it's a total rebuild, right? And then we don't do it.
Or we know going in that that's the right thing to do, and it's so key, right?
Yeah. All right. What do you got next?
I think it's somewhat related to the operating partner, but in every one of our businesses, I'll talk about it from what we're doing, but I think it covers any business, any PE-backed business. There's always a bottleneck. You just don't know where it is at a certain scale. If you're buying $1 billion business, maybe you've got a strategy problem, or maybe you get too many people. Those problems seem easier in some ways, or easier to identify. At our size companies, we got to figure out where the problem is. Like, why aren't we growing fast? Why aren't we getting product out? Surprising for us is you would think going into buying small software companies that engineering is typically the challenge. But it's not. It's product management for us, mostly because we're buying founder-owned businesses, and the founder was sort of the best product manager, at least they thought they were. Yeah. And they often went on a sales call, great idea, stop everything, which added to the projects that they never finished. Yep. But it's counterintuitive. So you would think in a particular business, software, it's all about engineering, but it's not, right? And as you look at manufacturing businesses that PE firms own, or healthcare or services, it's important that you figure out what the bottleneck is before you start applying, fixes to the problem, because it's often not what you think. I mean, if you were to bet, everybody say it's engineering. We got to hire more engineers. We got to hire them faster. And the reality is that's not true. That in most cases, we don't know what to build. And one of the problems when you have that with product managers is engineers are going to build, whether they have something to build or not.
It's time to build.
It's time to build. It's time to make the donuts. And so they end up building things that go off in an offshoot or complicate the problem because, they want to be productive too, right? So keeping that queue filled with projects and products that customers want to buy, that product management has been given the authority to figure out whether this is the right thing to build and how should we build it. That's important. And that was counterintuitive for us. We often felt, hey, we're buying companies where it's already successful. They already have a lot of customers. So we must be building the things that people want to buy. So what's the pipeline look like? Let's just keep building more of that stuff. And as it turns out, we've often made mistakes. I've made that mistake myself. That was, Contelligent was a great example. We spent time on a UI that was glorious that it turned out none of the customers wanted. They just wanted us to do it for them, yep. Right? And that, we made a mistake. I should have looked harder. I should have talked to more customers, and they loved the demo, but we never said that, would you actually use this? And we'd prefer that you just do that part of it, right? And I think that's the problem we've run into is have we talked to customers?
And
we
AI is going to make that problem way worse.
Way worse.
And why is that?
Because you can create stuff so easily with AI. And I would say, we're going to talk about this in detail, but this is the thing that both scares me and excites me about AI. Like mobile, like browser, it fundamentally changes the user interface. And we don't know how to do this yet, right? Like we know that these large language models are hallucinating, but this idea that you're going back and forth, like actually speaking to it, is a new way to do things. Now we have to be careful about what it does on the other end, because you don't want should I launch the nuclear missiles? Sure, you don't want that, right?
That's a great question.
That's a great
you
question.
You always ask the
right?
best questions. Jim.
Whoops, I'm wrong. Yeah, but it's even just working on some upgrading coding projects, you find yourself talking to Claude like it's actually a person while you're doing it. Yeah, I'm wasting time saying, hey, let's check that in, as opposed to just say, check it in. Like, why do I have to converse with it? Yeah. But I think that's one of the challenges. We don't know yet that how some of these systems should be. Take an ERP system. There are places where using English to interact with these systems are going to be super powerful for the shop floor person that doesn't have time to do this kind of stuff with an order. Can you speak to it in a reliable way? It's going to fundamentally change things, but we have to approach this slowly, because the downstream effects can be radical. I mean, these things can go off the rails. They can be expensive.
You've got every investor and every CEO saying more AI, more. You're going to get what you asked for. You're going to get a lot of people building stuff nobody asked for, nobody wants. It was relatively easy and cheap to build. So let's get it out there.
Yeah.
And it's like, who's getting it out there? The sales team. They don't know how to sell it. They haven't been prepped on it. They didn't even understand what it does. It was just this cool thing an engineer wanted to do. When building software was hard and you needed lots of budget for it, it was a considered decision.
Yes.
No longer that considered when you can just pop off and vibe code something and then put it into production. So for all the people sending us all these AI these AI doom articles about everybody's jobs going away, I would say maybe don't have your kid be a CS major. Have your kid be a philosophy major who goes into product management.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a statistics major. That should tell you something.
Yeah. Who understands product management really well. So that is where it happens. The best companies we've had have a head of technology, CTO or VP engineering, whatever, and a head of product.
Yes.
And their peers.
And their peers.
And they love working with each other.
They love working with each other.
They're like Ernie and Bert. They are inseparable. They want to fix stuff together. They want to solve problems together. They each have a separate set of skills. They're super complementary. When you see it at odds, or you see a power dynamic where the CTO has way more juice than the head of product, or the opposite, that's not as good.
No, it's not as good. And the challenge, of course, is the ratios are out of whack with small companies, right? So you might have one product manager, and you have a CTO or VP engineering. There's a team of 20 engineers.
Totally.
That ratio is tough. The best product managers, though, are the ones that absolutely love working with engineering and absolutely love, talking to customers and prospects.
Totally.
And know how to do it. I mean, that's the other thing we're working on as we branch off a little bit here. It's knowing how to ask the questions of customers to figure out what they really want, because what they say is not often what they want, right? And I think it's going to be way harder with AI.
Yeah.
Way harder.
All right. You ready for my next?
Yeah, bring it to me.
Hot take.
Do you want me to do the Karnak the Magnificent thing? Yeah.
The first half of the sentence isn't that surprising. The second half may be a little, little spicy. But software private equity went from kind of niche within a niche to very crowded in the last 10 years.
Yes.
And the late cycle tourists are making us all look bad.
Yes. Well,
they're making us look bad.
Who do you compete with? Who don't we compete with?
I mean, technology was 33% of global buyout deal value in 2024. 33%. I mean, it was, less than 10% of private equity buyout when you and I showed up.
Yep.
Maybe 5%. I get it. Recurring revenue, predictability, high valuations, great cash flows, easy to leverage, especially, when you could do it off of revenue and not profits.
Yeah. I mean, ideally it's a business with massive gross margin if you're doing it right,
Yeah. I mean, software specific deals were up 32% year over year in 2024. So everybody's got religion. Every company's a software company now. So how do you even differentiate with what's going on? But I think a lot of LPs, their biggest exposure is to software GPs.
Yeah.
That's going to take a lot of time to unwind, right? I think we've talked about this on the prediction show and other things, is just like you could have a very good business that's just on the wrong side of the AI trade.
Yeah.
You have a really good business that non-technical, people inside a private equity fund are going to hire a tech diligence firm like Code & Co. And Code & Co is going to come back and say, how much are you worried about AI risk here in terms of how the product is built and needs to be rebuilt,
Yep.
right? To be kind of AI first or AI friendly. I'm not talking about business model disruption. And they say, we're very worried about it, or somebody on the IC is, and Code & Co is going to, Stan and Lucas are going to say like, yeah, you got a lot of exposure here, which means let's not take it to market,
Yeah, exactly.
pull back and rebuild the stack, modernize it, or take it to market and take the pain on the valuation because somebody's going to say like, it's a great opportunity to cut you down on price.
Well, especially because they're using AI to analyze the code, which they didn't used to do. And now they're pointing out a bunch of things that aren't relevant, but just negotiating points to knock you down, right?
Yeah. And that all used to be true,
Yeah.
but there wasn't this tectonic shift that's happened in the last 12 months, right? Everybody had to suffer through tech diligence. Cybersecurity used to be the thing that would get you caught. Now Vanta's come out and other things, and it's made it a little easier for people who are on top of it. I think you were way ahead of that, which was been a huge benefit to us. But yeah, this just like kind of unknown of like, you got AI risk.
Yep.
And it's gonna cost money to rebuild this stuff.
But what's interesting about that is you get the high level, we're sick of the tech bro economy here. One thing I think it's important that people realize that technology is never going away. Forget all the big high-end stuff. Everything that happens, go to any automotive manufacturing plant, and all of those robots are programmed. There's technology in everything, and not all of it has to be this, sexy, in-your-face consumer stuff. It's the core of how things get done, and that's never going to change. And the more compute power we have, and the more the ability we have to have software do things for you, the world will be a better place. Not this crazy Elon Musk, everybody's going to have an Optimus robot, which doesn't even work and will do everything for you. But, software is here to stay. And the stuff that we're doing is inside of a lot of the stuff people use every day. It's it's important.
The people that have come in late in the cycle who are pumping up, keeping valuations very high because of scarcity. Again, buyout world is a zero-sum game.
Yep.
You either own the company you want to own or you don't. Not in venture where you could go start another one to compete with the 1,000 that are already out there. So you have to win it. So the valuation stayed hot because the business models are quite attractive. The growth was good. Now growth has come down. I think you and I have talked a lot about the world being over-softwared.
Yes.
There's plenty of software out there. It's cheap to make. It's only going to get worse. And people are investing in the software segment like it's still an emerging growth segment of the economy. Sure, it grows faster than GDP. It's got, all the great dynamics for it, but it needs to be invested in like it's a mature industry, which means you have to be super efficient. You need to, use the tools to drive profitability, to drive visibility, to improve the stack, to keep retention high and all these things. And none of these investors did anybody a solid by overpaying for software companies late in the cycle. And now you're starting to see in the public markets, it's not going to come all the way down into the private markets because there's no incentive for people to write down their private marks. If you came in at a high number, you'll pick the right comps to show that you should be at a high number. And my sense is things are a little oversold in the public markets. They'll come back once they realize these companies can still drive tons of cash flow and drive tons of predictability. I'm setting aside the hyperscalers and the guys like Facebook spending more on CapEx than they have revenue. I think that's a little dangerous. I'm talking about rational enterprise software companies that are just trying to,
But Meta was very rational. I mean, they were right about being all in on the virtual world. I enjoyed that one. Well, what's crazy though, and people are not going to want to hear this, and we're going to talk about this in another episode. AI is actually making it easier for the citizen developer. And my argument is going to be more software. So why doesn't somebody do something custom today? Because it's hard, right? So do you really need that? I mean, is it really critical to my business to do it this way, or should I just change my business to do it that way? That's a lot of software companies come in with I have my best practices when you use my software. Now, when you can actually reliably use an AI engine or something to build a module that does exactly what you want, you sort of have to say, maybe that's the right way to do it. I couldn't do it in the past, but it's not that hard to do it now. So I think this is really going to make it more complicated because you're going to have a lot of options that you didn't have before.
Totally agree. All right, give me your last one.
Our standard joke was you loved everybody and I hated everybody when we met somebody. 100%. It's like I can remember, Abe Lincoln, he was a little overrated. I mean, Mother Teresa,
Did she really do
yeah,
that
did she really
much?
do all that stuff? I mean, there's some kids who were still poor, like, yeah, we know that's not true. I think hiring, I think it's important anyway, but it's over talked about, I think, and simplified. For us, our best investment process wasn't a company. It was getting a hiring process for the C-suite that we believe in. And I think that was from the combination of you and I, learning that you like everybody, I hate everybody. And neither one of those things was good for finding people. Right. And we had an inconsistent process. And so, we adopted the Lou Adler method and modified it ourselves and added in our own Hogan, training. But I think that's what got us to good, consistent hiring in the C-suite makes a huge difference. And, Paul and I were talking about this. I'm going to make him mad by doing this on purpose. He said, we're pricing the J curve, right? And which is true. We can't afford a new C-suite at every portfolio company. You just can't afford it, right? Upgrading talent is expensive. And a company's got a couple $1 million of EBITDA. If you had 4 C-suite executives, you're already eating into that in a meaningful way. So you got to be careful. You got to hire the right people. And you're still going to get a gap between the people that were the founders' people and the new people you're bringing in. You've still got a difficult process there. So it's really hard to figure out what order you hire these in. And getting the right person in the right seat, because it's not always the same, with heads of engineering, sometimes we need the person who's really great at keeping the team calm. They're all good engineers, but maybe not good product people. Sometimes we have really good engineers, but not architects. We need architects. So getting that process right I'm going to bounce it to you because at the C-suite, if we get it wrong at the C-suite, we're dead.
Yeah, I mean, all the data would say when you replace a CEO, the returns for that investment are significantly lower than not replacing the CEO. That's pretty obvious, but there's lots of data out there from Stepstone and other people. We used to joke with Dave Chandler, our old boss and partner at CGP, where we would talk about how we back great management teams. Yeah. And then we actually pulled the data. We're like, wow, we get rid of a lot of great management teams that we back. So we had a debate about whether or not we take that even off the website. Because is it true? I mean, we're backing these great management teams who don't last very long. And that was on us.
But it's also stupid. Like who says, we back crappy management teams. I mean, that's like a no doy, right? Like, you want the opportunity to back a great management. Right. There's your point. We don't know, right?
But I think we came to the conclusion that we could do way better.
Yes.
And that we needed a process and a system that was repeatable and that we could rely on.
I would tell you that most of our companies, when we roll out the process with them, so typically we're hiring, let's say we brought in the CEO already and we're going to bring in a CFO or head of engineering and we run this process with the CEO. I think sometimes they think it's a little bit heavyweight. Like we get a little bit of eye rolling until they do it. And then like, hey, this was really actually faster and easier than doing it the other way.
I mean, because most of our companies were bringing in a new CEO. Yeah. We are the exit for the founder. The founders are retiring in almost all of our cases. Sometimes there's a number 2 in place, like a David Wilkie, a John Nestor, a Chris Sullins, a Todd Douchy. Like that's phenomenal. So they don't go through
Rob Lowe and
they don't go through the interview process that we're bringing in a CEO in from the outside. So they may all those guys had total religion on this, but I'm saying it could be more difficult with somebody who's already in the business.
Yeah.
Certainly if you're buying a minority stake of a founder-owned business and the founder's going to stay CEO, you don't have a whole lot of juice to get him to change anything.
Right.
He's got a great successful business. Now he's got $30 million in his bank account. Like what's he going to change things for? But oftentimes,
again, that's when you get him to buy a boat. And so he needs another bite at the apple at that point, right?
That's right. So
hey, Sue, have you seen this month's yachting magazine?
Hey, how come Yachting Magazine just started showing up at the house? Yeah, because Devin filled out the card for you and sent it to you. But a lot of our CEOs have been interviewed in our style, in our format.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that was great. We're going to do that across the board. So we've had very high adoption of the process.
Yeah.
The companies make it their own and roll it out. We're still very involved in the hiring, certainly at the C-suite.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think we can be helpful and we can take a lot of reps off the plate of our management teams who are trying to build these businesses, and they rely on this process that it's going to identify the right people. We haven't run the math recently. I bet you we will soon. as we look at everything, I bet you our turnover rate on C-suite executives is less than half it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
If you take me and you, like actively investing 2008 till now, you cut that in half, it'll be night and day.
Yeah.
Absolutely night and day.
Yep.
I mean, anecdotally, I can't think of a C-suite executive who washed out in recent years.
No.
Because we hired the wrong guy. I'll think about it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. But that was
6-7 years ago. I could rattle off a dozen
Yeah.
of like, wow, I made that mistake. Ooh, thought I liked the cut of his jib.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't even know
know
what a jib is.
Yummy a Coke, pineapple.
Okay, so let's finish this off here. Are you done with that one?
Oh, I think we are done with that one.
As the kids would say, we're cooked.
Do they say that anymore?
They say cooked. Yeah, cooked. I'm cooked.
All right.
Chopped means you're ugly. Cooked means you're toast.
I guess I'm cooked and chopped, and I got no, what was it, Riz? I don't know what the kids say anymore.
You got miles of Riz.
Is it Snapagram, InstaChat? I don't know what these things are.
Miles. You got so much Riz, there's Riz left over.
I say it on purpose just so my boys get mad. You know what it is. You know it's called Instagram. Do I know it's called
exactly. That? Do I care?
Yeah, do I care? Yeah.
It's owned by Mark Zuckerberg. I'm not sure I care.
Exactly.
I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that guy. This one is, I mean, you knew this was going to happen.
Is it going to be sell companies for more than you buy them?
Yeah, exactly. Raise prices. That's what we should do. No, everyone says they want to stay small. Every fund that starts says, hey, we're only raising a couple $100 million. We like this end of the market. Why do we like this end of the market? Because there's 15% of the money going after 85% of the companies. It's very compelling. You fish where the fish are and where there are no fishing boats. It's kind of pretty obvious, right?
Is that your blue ocean? That's your blue ocean for today?
That's my blue ocean for the day. So Stepstone Research found that funds that more than doubled in size posted 6 percentage point IRR declines compared to the prior fund. We all know the higher you go up, the more challenged you are for outsized returns.
Sure.
Or alpha, et cetera. It's just a gravity problem, right? Things are more competitive, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody who starts a fund one, a lot of them start small, smaller than they probably were at their prior firm. We did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because you want to you don't want to be too aggressive. And you say, hey, we're going to stay small. We like this segment of the market. It's where all the companies are. It's not that competitive. And the gravitational pull up market just grabs everybody. And no shade.
What do you think it is? Like, I mean, yeah, I guess because if they're throwing the money at you, you take it, right? That's probably
if somebody wants to give you twice as much as you had before and you only have to add 1 or 2 more people to the firm after slogging it through your first small fund and not paying yourself very much, right? I totally get it. There's no shade thrown to these people, but don't give me if somebody in the pitch says we're going to stay small. No, you're not. All our friends who raised similar size funds 10 years ago when we did are all so much bigger. And I'm so happy for them because now
they're out of our market, right?
They're out of my market.
Yeah,
I don't have to compete with these people who are brilliant and really good at what they do. Now they're competing with other people up market. So good for them. And now they're buyers of our company.
Exactly. That's the best part. And we know them all. Right?
I can call them and be like, hey, I've got a great asset for you. And you've got plenty of money to afford it now.
Yeah. I was noticing you haven't really deployed anything this year there, Dave. I got a few things that might be interesting to you.
100%. So it's kind of turned out to it's the eye roll of the proprietary deal comment of like, we're going to stay small. So are we going to stay small, Jim?
I mean, because so here's the thing. I think, we're going to stay small. The good news is we learned what to do staying small, right? I think sometimes you say stay small because we like to have our hands in these companies, whatever. We don't. Like people at the companies want to get their hands in. Just back to what we learned. It's like, let's focus on a few things and let's, know where the bottlenecks are, and you can really see some great successes. And we see great successes. A small company getting just a little bit bigger is so cool compared to a company that's already 100 million in revenue going to 150. Interesting, but at the micro level, it's just not as fun. I mean, as it is to see doubling the number of customers at a small company, which you can do when it's relatively small.
Totally agree. It's way more fun down here.
Way more fun.
And the personalities are way kookier.
Way kookier.
And the stories are way funnier. And
The offices are in weird locations.
I mean,
Yeah.
the people up market from us have to call me and source from me.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare.
I get to talk to like interesting people like Bill and SK Ho and Matt Murray and like people who have like built real companies and who have interesting lives. They're not, boring private equity people.
Right. Exactly.
It's way more fun.
Oh, it's way more fun. Yeah.
All right. So do you think we're going to do this again in 10 years? Or should we do maybe one in like 5 years? Because we're going to be so old.
I think it will be like the Nori and Ryan will be doing it when we got rid of Jim and Devin.
The 10 years since we got rid of those
we learned
two.
a few things from
Everything we've
those
learned.
knuckleheads.
All right. I think we're going to do another one of these in 10 years, Jim.
Yeah.
Because
A lot of it's going to be the same, in my opinion. If we haven't learned that lesson, stick to the same lesson. You know what I mean?
yeah. All right. Well, let's frame this. Put
Let's
it in
frame
the
it.
office and be a good reminder for us.
Well, I think you're right.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
Neither this podcast nor any of the information contained here constitutes an offer to sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security or instrument in, or to participate in, any ParkerGale fund or other investment vehicle. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and there is no assurance that any ParkerGale fund will achieve its objectives or avoid significant losses. This podcast may contain forward-looking statements. Such statements are subject to various risks and uncertainties. ParkerGale is an investment advisor registered with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. Registration with the SEC does not imply a certain level of skill or training. Guests appearing on the podcast may or may not be a financial sponsor of the podcast or an episode of the podcast. ParkerGale may have business relationships with certain guests, sponsors, or organizations mentioned during the program. In some cases, guests or sponsors may provide services to or receive services from ParkerGale, which creates potential conflicts of interest. Any sponsorship of this podcast does not imply endorsement by ParkerGale and is not provided in exchange for, nor intended to solicit, business between the sponsor and ParkerGale. The appearance of any guest does not constitute an endorsement or testimonial of ParkerGale or any fund. For additional information regarding ParkerGale, please refer to ParkerGale's website, www.parkergale.com, or Form ADV, available at advisorinfo.sec.gov.
From the heart of Chicago to all over the globe, a couple private equity geniuses, they share what they know. They love to mess with technology where the future is sink or swim. It's the Private Equity Funcast with Devin and Jim. Technology issues, middle market PE-backed companies. They bicker with each other and they don't take themselves too seriously. It's not venture capital, it's private equity. It's the Private Equity Funcast. Pour yourself a drink and